Hi, everybody. This is Rob Woodbridge, founder of Untethered.tv. What you're about to hear is a keynote from Untethered Talks that happened in the summer. This is Kevin Foreman from INRIX. He's talking about big data, small screen, and this is an incredible presentation, just the power of big data. So enjoy.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. A little bit more. I'm actually a Canadian living in the States for the last 20 years, and you'll see in the agenda, I'm going to actually go out on the limb a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about what Kelly just talked about in terms of location-based services 2.0 and what that means. And then I'm going to throw out some opportunities that I see for all of you. And hopefully that'll cause some stir as we get right into the debate. I used to live in Toronto. I was on Yonge and Bloor. And it's nice to come back sort of somewhat home. I see that you changed several things on. It used to be called the Sky Dome when I was here when the Blue Jays were winning everything. It's now called something else. The Leafs were about as good as they are right now, still. But it's nice to be home. Toronto's a great place. Just in talking to the people while we're getting the slides up, great energy here. I tell you, it's a great time to be alive as a Canadian in Toronto today. And hopefully put some context into that in terms of the presentation you just saw, because your eyes might be rolling a little bit to saying, how can I take advantage of that landscape change? You know, one of the fun parts about being in the States, a lot of people use a line of Wayne Gretzky of where's it going, where's the puck going to be? The landscape changes all of the time. We'll talk about big data, big data, big data. Just a show of hands, how many of you here have heard of big data until today? Yeah, I never knew how to say big data 3 weeks ago. You see the presentation? It's the one. It's running already?
No, which one is it?
It's this one right here, I'm sorry. I couldn't even say big data 3 weeks ago, it seems, and now everybody seems to be running it. So anyway, I'm the vice president of mobile applications at a company called INRIX. I assume INRIX is a company you may not have heard of. INRIX is the traffic geeks. We provide traffic data to Ford, Audi, BMW, Toyota, a lot of that machine-to-machine data. We also have a top application out there for the various smartphone platforms. That's great, if I could spin it from there. So we'll put this into context for you. So why don't we just zip. Location-based services 1.0. I'm assuming a lot of you have heard of LBS. We've been talking all morning. I promise I won't use the word Foursquare, not even once. Oh, I just did. I'll do it in three contexts, though. This won't be a pitch for my company. The three contexts are local search, turn-by-turn navigation, and traffic applications in the context of location-based services, and we'll go through these really quickly. But local search was really around what's around me. And we have all the examples that you know. Where do I find a retailer? Here we have Google Maps. We've got SO Finder, another application given the high gas prices called Gas Buddy that you might be using. What is the address of X? So here we've got Tim Hortons application. We've got the Starbucks Finder. We've got the McDonald's Finder. What's the phone number? Here's a shout out to a company in town here that's building an application that helps you find local restaurants and events and the like. Typically you want to phone them for more information. They're really good at finding the phone numbers. What's the ratings of a certain company, restaurant, and there's Yelp. And I want to stop at one here, which is a bit of a trivia for you. Hopefully this will be the trivia that you can go impress your friends with tonight when you go home. Question for you. First a statement, then a question. According to ComScore, Home Depot is the 8th most searched brand on mobile devices. Home Depot. You would never have thought that. I would never have thought that. Why is that? Anybody know?
People are always mobile. They're on construction sites looking up stuff.
Looking for stuff on Home Depot. That's not the reason why, though. The reason why, they want to know the store hours. People know how to get to their Home Depot. They don't want to go to their Home Depot at Sunday at 6:30 if they've closed at 6. So they want to know the store hours, which is a common LBS 1.0 application. But guess what? We talked about stovepipes just in a presentation earlier. Major fail. Here's the Home Depot app. They want to sell me a fridge while I'm driving down the freeway on my mobile phone. We talked about fridges and the like, but you know, there's a good example of where we've got to improve, knowing, this is publicly known data, that Home Depot is the 8th most searched brand. Put the store hours first. But typically, as you guys might know, the e-commerce team is owned by the vice president of e-commerce trying to drive that stovepipe, and the competition is actually the local store. So they typically don't want to drive the business to the store. But really, this is a major fail in location-based services. And not just to pick on the Americans, but Canadian Tire works the exact same way. Pick up the Canadian Tire app and you'll see it for yourself. So anyway, this is where we are today. Not to throw rocks. There's lots of reasons why that's still the case today. But it's interesting that Home Depot is the 8th most searched brand. Here's another great factoid for you that you probably do know, and the numbers might have changed a little bit. The data is a year old, which is almost not worth it, but I think the trend is still the right area. 70% of all mobile searches are acted on within 60 minutes versus 70% on your desktop within 1 week. If I'm searching for a Starbucks or Tim Hortons or oversized baggage claim in the airport or a bathroom in the Eaton Center, I'm looking for a bathroom. I'm not browsing. Not so true in the desktop. This is a great opportunity for those of you in the crowd that were in the advertising brand area. Customers are looking for things. Even though they don't want mobile advertising per se, as we're trying to figure that out as a society, people need to consume. They need to spend, and that's a great stat of when people are looking for these mobile devices. Just think, these are personal, intimate devices. You don't even share them with your spouse. These devices are gray and beige for a reason. You typically leave them at your company when you leave. These ones you change sometimes more often than your toothbrush. These are personal, intimate devices. And to come into that sanctuary of consumers is a fantastic opportunity. So that's location-based services from a local search. We'll quickly go through turn by turn. Many of you use turn by turn, I assume, on your phone. Really the answer to the question, how do I get there? There's Apple Maps 6.0. There's Rogers Navigation, an example of the new Apple Maps application running iOS 6 that they just launched last week. In traffic, the business I'm in, not website traffic, but roadway traffic, typically the question is, what does traffic look like a while ago on the major roads? And here we've got the CTV application, Google Maps, and I think CP24 is some examples of. This is location-based services 1.0 is where we are today. All of that net is somewhat small screen, small data. The reason why I say small data is most often the McDonald's restaurants aren't changing their location. Their hours aren't changing that often. Their store phone number is not changing that often. It might seem a little bit like it's bigger data, but it's not. It's not a very exciting business, actually. It's, for those of you who are thinking of starting your own business, do not start one of these businesses. You will quickly lose to platform providers that are coming up. It's small data, small screen, location-based services 1.0. Do not go there. That's not where the puck is going. Okay, for those of you who I talked to in the hallway already looking for great opportunities, this is where we've been. You never win by going where the marketplace has been. Let's go to location-based services 2.0. Do you use the word LBS 2.0 much? No? Okay, well hopefully you'll, when people ask what location-based services are 2.0, here's a framework that, again, we use the same three categories. First of all, let's talk about big data. How big is big? I won't repeat what Kelly had to say, but in the traffic business, the business that INRIX is in, we get 500 sources commercial data, including all that machine-to-machine stuff that Kelly talked about. INRIX gets our traffic from UPS drivers, Federal Express drivers, yellow cab drivers who have no idea that they're actually transmitting from the cam of their vehicles their anonymous data and speed that comes to INRIX. We get over 100 million connected cars giving us data every single day, giving us tens of billions of pieces of data, and then we throw it away every 90 seconds. That's how big data is. I got an email just actually before I came up here from a customer of ours in Portugal who was complaining that they turned right on an accident on the road, and there was a major accident there reported. And remember, we refresh our traffic every 90 seconds on your phone and in vehicles. Every 90 seconds. And an accident happened some 60 seconds earlier. And it's like, oh, traffic every 90 seconds. Remember, there's a data plan you have to worry about here. We don't want to just eat your data plan and batteries and things. But it just goes to show you how customers' expectations have gone so high that even refreshing traffic around the world in 30 countries every 90 seconds in some cases is too slow. But we throw it all away and repaint the traffic yet again. This isn't meant, again, to be an INRIX overview. I just want to give you a concrete example of what location-based services 2.0 can do in this context, and then you can apply it to your own business. But to give you a summary, this is how we sort of get our traffic fusion engine. So we get all this traffic flow monitoring coming from all these anonymous GPS signals. We mix it together with all the incidents of accidents, police, and the like, various road closures that we monitor throughout the country. So when the Gartner Expressway falls apart, we sort of know that. We've got traffic cameras monitoring all this stuff. We add in events. So I know Neil Diamond is playing tonight at the Air Canada Arena. Anytime there's an event that has about 5,000 people attending, it typically is traffic influencing, and we sort of keep track of that. Add it together with consumers. For those of you who have the INRIX traffic app, you'll know that you can report police and accidents. And as we sort of become the Wikipedia of traffic, those all factor into the context, all adding to big data. And I'll talk a little bit about how we actually move this to a small screen in a second. Actually, I won't spend much on this slide, but what that really means is you get to have predictive data, very much like you can have a weather forecast. At INRIX, we do traffic forecasts. So today or tomorrow, I'm going to go to Pearson, and I realize just real time right now, if I leave right now, it'll take me 26 minutes. Via the Gartner, it'll take me 29 minutes. If I go to Bathurst, 4:01. But if I wait until 4:30, I'm sure it'll go much longer than that. But traffic forecasts are going to be as prevalent as weather forecast. For example, I know there's business meetings happening throughout the world that 2:30 in the afternoon, the meeting usually gets put on pause like this. Excuse me, what time do I need to leave to get to the airport by 4:30? Right? Doesn't that happen all the time? And the person who's local is just guessing because they have no idea whether there's a Leafs game in town or not. Or maybe a Blue Jays game in town. All right, but what does big data really mean? It allows you to answer the higher order questions. For example, not as what is traffic right now, but how does traffic compare to last year? Some late-breaking stats, we'll actually announce these officially next week here in Canada, but I thought I'd take this right from our PR department today, and they gave me permission to do this. Traffic congestion in Canada, good news, bad news, is down 22% this year versus last. That's good news, bad news. Good news is traffic is down, which means we get to work faster. The bad news is it's usually inversely related to the economy. The first thing that people do when they get a job is they drive. A month later, they buy a house and a car and the like. And traffic is down by 22% in Canada, as it is in the United States and most Western European countries. It ranges in the big cities down from 15% in Vancouver down to 28% in Ottawa. Why? Again, traffic is typically the leading indicator. One of the side businesses from INRIX is actually licensing this data to Wall Street and Bay Street as they keep track of the economy. This is an example of sort of macro. We'll talk about micro in a second. Just because these are interesting stats, and we'll play a little game here with you in a second, here are what's happening in the 5 top cities in Canada. Montreal, congratulations. You have the worst traffic in Canada. You waste 39 hours of everyone's life on average every single year stuck unnecessarily idling in traffic. Vancouver, 35 hours. Toronto, 28. Calgary, 15. And down to Ottawa, 13 in terms of the big cities that I thought would be relevant to this audience right here. So this is where you get to participate a little bit. When you have big data, you can actually ask that next level of question, like, what's the worst day? What's the worst hour? What's the best day? And we'll go through these relatively quick. The worst day, believe it or not, and we'll do Toronto at the end, is not always Friday. You see in Montreal, it's Thursday. In Ottawa, it's Tuesday. We'll spend hours telling you why this is later. The worst morning is actually typically Tuesday, except in Vancouver. They're always a little different on Thursday. The worst afternoon, as you can expect, is usually Friday, except in Ottawa. Tuesday is Friday. The worst hour, usually it's Friday afternoon. What's the best work day? Mondays. The best weekday morning, as you can imagine, is Friday mornings are the best weekdays. The best weekday afternoon is Monday. And this one might be interesting. The best weekday hour. It's usually Friday morning. Ottawa is an hour delayed, again, one of those sort of Newfoundland times. And Vancouver's yet different again. If you want to leave to work, stay in Vancouver till 7 o'clock at night, and that's your best time to get home. All right. Again, this is meant to be sort of fun. We'll go ahead and shout these out at Toronto, because I assume most people are from Toronto, right? Sorry about the guys from Ottawa, I already got you. All right, worst day, Friday. How about the worst morning? What do you guys think?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Anybody else? Wednesday, we had it right here. Okay, what's the worst PM? Well, this is Friday because it's self-evident. The worst hour, 4 to 5. All right, what about the best in Toronto? You guys live here, you know this. Mondays is obviously the best work day like everyone else. The best morning is Friday morning. Best weekday. And finally, the best weekday hour. What's the best weekday hour? Shout it out. No, but during the work, yeah, not Sunday morning, 2 o'clock. 7 to 8. So, ironically, I would not have guessed this. Torontonians are very much like Calgarians and people who live in Montreal, and different than people who live in Vancouver and Ottawa. So, what's happening in Ottawa?
Politicians.
We could spend 2 hours on that, Well, actually, next week, the company's issuing an official press release. That's not my division. I'm the consumer team. I'll tell you a little bit. But I want to get some sneak numbers here, especially for you guys here. This will be officially announced with a lot more data and detail from all of the guys really analyzing this back in Seattle, where we're headquartered. I want to give you an example of macro, though. But at the end of the day, location-based services and an example of what you can do with big data comes down to what's in it for me. Again, these are personal, intimate devices, and for those of you who care about building infrastructure or traffic-based systems, the last 3 slides might be interesting to you, or if you're planning a big event. But what about affecting you every day? The higher order questions people can ask are, what's my fastest route to home? What are the incidents in front of me, not around me? We have this joke at my division. Again, I run the consumer team, sort of INRIX traffic, guaranteed satisfaction or double your traffic back. Right? People don't want double their traffic back. They don't want to know what real-time traffic is per se. They want to know, given real-time traffic, what's my fastest route home? What's my second fastest route home? What's my actual arrival time? What's the best time for me to leave? And sometimes notify my spouse in one click while I'm driving safely. Sometimes you want to know not just how I get there in navigation systems, but how do I get there with real time? And there are a bunch of companies out there that you might use for your turn-by-turn navigation over there. Many of them are moving now towards traffic-influenced navigation. Just like the head units in your cars are moving towards traffic-influenced navigation. They're examples of companies using big data to take advantage. So I'm going to Pearson tomorrow. I want to know what's the fastest route given real-time traffic. What's going on with the Gartner? Is Obama in town? Is there a Neil Diamond concert that's sold out? Et cetera, et cetera. And people really want to know what's my actual arrival time. One of my favorite sayings these days is, let's get rid of the word ETA. If you ask me what time it is, I don't say, excuse me, and go out and look at the sun in the sky and say, it's about 3 o'clock. I look at my phone and tell you exact time. Today, there are a lot of applications and use cases where people use estimated time of arrival. If your business or your opportunity looks at estimated time of arrival, that's a great business opportunity for you. That should be a key word. Anytime there's estimated time, now with big data, you don't need to have an estimated time in your application. Here are some great opportunities for companies that are Toronto-based or in Canada-based, which is, I want to know what's gas stations in front of me. I was in Denver the other day, and like probably most of you, I don't know if this is true, I decline all those coverages at the rental car station and do the fill up the gas because it seems like it's a rip-off when I pay for all that gas. And then I'm driving to the airport, I go, oh darn, I gotta fill up my car. So I don't Google it, I Siri it for lost conversations and say gas stations. But major fail. It gives me all the gas stations behind me or around me. I don't care about gas stations behind me or around me. I care about gas stations in front of me. I don't care about incidents and traffic behind me. I care about incidents in front of me. Real-time data. I don't care about parking lot access. I care about parking lot availability. The business of find me a parking lot isn't the right question. Find me a parking lot that has availability is the question. Grocery stores are another great opportunity, especially for people here. We used to, with a company, look at these as one-handed devices, as iPhones and tablets, and now we look at them as one-handed devices versus two-handed devices. Especially with Android, there are a lot of market form factors that are one-handed. With one-handed devices, you can push a shopping cart. With two-handed devices, you can't. Let me say that again. With one-handed devices, you can drive a car. You can push a shopping cart. One of the hugest opportunities is women's applications. Most mobile applications are written by men for men, and with no apologies to all you married men, men think differently than women, right? The opportunity, if you're a woman in the audience, you've got unbound opportunity. The amount of applications available for women is right now unbound because women think differently than men. And the grocery store, not to just stereotype for a second, is one of those. You have a one-handed personal intimate device. Don't give me a shopping list. I have my route. My wife has her route. She goes to the shopping cart. Let me know when things are right in front of me every time. Not alphabetized or by some recipes. If you ever tried to build s'mores, for example, right? I've done the s'mores run many times. And the answer, I go to aisle 1, then aisle 13, then aisle 6. Give me the stuff in the right order. That's such an obvious use case, for example. Here is what I think the big opportunities, and we'll come to that last part. Anything to do with real-time data, directional data, or comparative data. Anything to do with real-time data, directional data, or comparative data. Those are location-based services 2.0. Real-time data, we talked about, refreshing your data every 90 seconds. Think, as you look at business opportunities, for those of you in the technology side, especially because technology is borderless. You know, I ask you not to think about your marketplace from the Canadian marketplace. Think about your marketplace as the auto marketplace or the women's shopping marketplace or the fashion marketplace. If it has to do with static data, you're probably too late. If it's real-time data, you can get access to those things. There's a lot of public government data available to you. If it's directional data, there's a lot of opportunity. Think about all the cases, and it's not just driving. For example, the airport example. I don't care about restaurants at airports. I care about restaurants on this side of security, right? There's great applications out there that map insides of airports. But once I've gone through security, don't tell me there's a Starbucks outside of security. You have to know the direction I'm in to make that useful. Otherwise, it's a major fail. And comparative data, for example, traffic in Canada this year versus last year was a great example. If you have comparative data, you can actually make great business. Now, how do you put that all on the small screen? That's tough. I purposely went through the questions the way I did, which is answer the use case questions I recommend. Again, people don't want traffic. They want to know what's my fastest route home given traffic. They don't want to know what incidents are in front of me. Okay, what does this mean for you? I took a risk here. I'm open to being wrong, but at least it'll cause great debate, hopefully. I listed 3 things. Again, I'm a Canadian. I admit I'm a Canadian. I like to think of myself somewhat as an earthling, because we all live on the same planet going around. But I've been living in the United States for 20 years, and I think there are 3 great opportunities for people with great education located right in the heartland of the country here. Answer this question. Why are you asking? When people ask me, where's store X located in the mall? That's a boring question. Don't answer that question. Ask, why are you asking? And the answer is, I'm looking for a Father's Day gift. Answer that question. Who can answer that question with this personal data is going to have the next very big company. Very, very big company. Challenge yourself always to ask the question, why are you asking? It's amazing how many times people ask questions that are actually lower order questions because they want data. They don't really want data. They want data to go to information to insight. Yes, you need to know do you need to know it's 32 miles an hour for 16 kilometers and then 16 kilometers, it's 35 kilometers per hour? Or you need to know it takes 22 minutes to get to Pearson? Answer the question that they really are trying to answer. The second thing is attack anything paper-based. Some of this stuff's obvious. Yellow pages, maps, roads, airports, malls, universities. But the textbook example from this morning, I have 4 children who all go to school, and I swear they have more textbooks than I had when I went to school. They're going to have more hernias than people my age. The kids carry paper around all the time. That's a great opportunity with such an advanced education system. And I know it has to be happening. I'm just not paying attention enough. But the amount of apps and courseware that's moving towards these devices that are personal, intimate, and dynamic is a great opportunity, especially for Canadians who understand global vision and understand how to take advantage. But if it's paper-based, it's a target to be replaced. And in terms of great opportunities, in my opinion, that's one. And then anything broadcast. Anything broadcast. And I used to talk about phone casts. I've changed my mind. I don't want a phone cast. I want a personal cast. And it doesn't matter what electronic screen's in front of me, whether it be this device or my display at one of these devices or my car. I want the Kevin Foreman channel. There's a lot of talk about going from 1 channel to 500 channels. I want 1 channel with 500 sources. And if you think about Facebook, they've sort of done that. It's called a news feed. I've got several hundred sources, and they have a parameter. Sometimes I can't change it as much as I'd like to control it, but it gives me my personal news feed. And I'm a big Facebook user. Many of the entities that populate that Facebook entity are actually entities. TSN, CBC, CTV, TechCrunch, Gizmodo. I get more news from those people than I do some of the other people that are actual human beings. But it's tailored to me. And I think anything that you can do towards personal casts on these devices with whatever niche that you're trying to do, you can take advantage of big data. And then remember, Don't show them the data, show them the insight and information as a result of that big data. Let me say it again. Don't show them the data, show them the result of that data. People don't care what traffic is like. They want to know what's the fastest route home given real-time traffic.